I woke to a sound that didn't belong. The heater was doing its soft, steady hum, the way it always did at night when the temperature fell into the 30s. The old house settled now and then, little dry creaks slipping through the walls like the house shifting its weight. I knew those. I knew the soft tap of plumbing, the thin whir under the fridge, the way wind nudged the siding when it changed direction. This wasn't any of that. I lay still, listening. The dark was complete. No street lights sneaking around the edges of the blinds, no phone glow. For a few breaths, I let my mind supply easy answers. Kaylee's dog, Murphy, scratching a paw. Someone getting water. The dryer tumbling the last of somebody's laundry in the basement. It was late, and her house was a living thing. It made noises. It breathed. I closed my eyes again, thought about the day that would come after sleep. The usual small things. Coffee, maybe a plan with friends. Classes coming, assignments waiting. Normal anchors I could tug on to bring myself back down. Then the sound came again. Sharper this time, pulling me upright inside my own head. A voice, a girl's voice. Familiar and muffled through wood and space, but clear enough to cut through whatever dream I'd been in. There's someone here. I didn't move. The words didn't make sense at first. They hovered like fog, and for a heartbeat I pretended they were part of a TV in another room, a clip on a phone, something from outside drifting in. But the room stayed dark, silent. My eyes had adjusted enough to make out the suggestion of my dresser, the edge of my desk, the soft shape of clothes over a chair. My heart started tapping harder, a small drum just under my collarbone. I sat up slow. The carpet was colder than I expected when my feet found it. I put my hand on the doorknob and waited, ear pressed to the wood. House noises, nothing. Then, something that wasn't nothing. Thud. Not loud. Not falling book loud or tripping over a shoe loud. A contained sound. A wrong-sounding weight where there shouldn't be weight. I told myself I was overreacting. Told myself I'd open the door and see the long, empty stretch of hallway and feel foolish for waking up over nothing. I turned the knob and made the gap the smallest possible line of darkness. The hallway lay there like a tunnel, carpet flattened by 1,000 student steps, door shut, the end swallowed by the house's own shadow. No movement, no light, just the still picture of a sleeping place. I listened until my ears ached from the effort. I closed the door again and stood there with my hand on it, counting breaths in silence. That's when I heard it, the thin, broken sound that can turn your body cold in a single second. Crying, muffled, close, from Xana's room. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my lungs made me take a small, shaky one. Then another sound threaded through the first. A man's voice, low, controlled, carrying the kind of softness that doesn't comfort. Words coming slow, deliberate, almost tender in a way that made every part of me recoil.
It's okay. I'm going to help you.
The room seemed to shrink around me. The heater's hum moved farther away. My hands went cold as if someone had touched them with ice. I reached for my phone with both hands to stop the trembling. The screen lit up too bright and turned the room into a box. My reflection ghosted there for a second, hair tangled, eyes wide. I opened messages to Bethany. Upstairs, lower level. Our phones were how we bridged floors, how we said the little things without leaving our rooms. I typed the first thing my brain could form. What's going on? I stared at the screen like it could pull an answer out of the air. No 3 dots, no reply. I looked back at the door, at the strip of wood and the thin space beneath it, the place where sound had just slipped in. I typed again, faster, the letters jumping because my hands weren't steady. No one is answering. I'm really confused, RN. The minutes stretched in an elastic way that made me doubt the clock. It could have been 60 seconds. It could have been 5 minutes. The house breathed its old bones' breath. Somewhere, wood ticked like cooling metal. Her reply lit the phone. Short, clipped, familiar, and not enough. Yeah, dude. What TF? Xana was wearing all black. I looked at the words until they blurred. What did that even mean in this moment? That she'd seen her earlier? That she was thinking of her now? My hands were shaking again, thumbs tripping over letters. I didn't go back to fix it. I'm freaking out, RN. I stood, touched the door with the backs of my fingers like I was testing if it was hot, and turned the knob again. The gap was a thin crescent of hallway, and the hallway was no longer empty. He was already moving when I saw him. The light in the hallway didn't so much illuminate as sketch him. Tall, more than 6 feet, the black of his clothing swallowing any detail. Pants, jacket, something covering his mouth and nose. The only part of his face that registered was above that, eyes I didn't look straight into, and the strong, dark shape of eyebrows that seemed chiseled out of the low light. There's a thing that happens to the body when fear moves past the idea of fear, when it becomes a state, frozen shock. People say it like it's dramatic, like it's something you'd notice while it's happening. You don't. Your body does the noticing for you and then stops telling you what it's doing. Everything in me went still. He passed my doorway without turning his head, without slowing, without any sense that he knew I was there at all. The fabric of his sleeve shifted as he moved, just enough to make a tiny whisper. His steps were steady, the weight of them a measured pressure pressing into the carpet, one after the other. I watched him walk toward the back of the house, watched him reach the slider that led to the deck. The door gave its soft track sound as he opened it, a sound I'd heard 100 times before and never thought about. He stepped into the November air like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. I stayed exactly where I was, a hand braced against the doorframe, the other hand on the doorknob, as if those 2 pieces of wood were the only things keeping me upright. I didn't call out. I didn't step into the hallway. Time hiccuped and left me in the space between seconds. Somewhere deeper in the house, Murphy barked, a short, alert bark, like he did when someone left a room. I closed the door. This time the lock turned under my fingers with a small metal certainty that barely touched anything inside me. I sat on the edge of my bed and realized I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I picked up my phone and typed with whatever parts of me were still connected to my hands. Like a ski mask almost. I watched the words leave the bubble and land in the space between us. Like he had something on his head and little on mouth. The sentence came out wrong, the way sentences do when panic has already gotten to the motor skills that shape words. I didn't fix it. There wasn't time to fix anything. I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out. Her replies came like dropped pebbles, quick and small. Shut the fuck up. So am I. Then one word that landed with a weight all its own. Run. I stared at that word until my eyes watered. The room felt like it had become smaller, like the air was being used up too quickly. I looked at my door, at the lock, at the place the door met the frame. The black line where they touched could have been miles thick or paper thin. I couldn't tell. I didn't run. I couldn't. The thing that had moved through the hallway had moved through me too, and replaced everything quick with everything slow. I slid my back down the door until I was sitting on the floor with my knees pulled in. The carpet pressed a pattern into my skin. My phone was warm in my hands. I listened to every possible sound, like my life depended on identifying them. The house made its house noises. The heater breathed. The wood ticked and sighed. Once, a car passed outside and the tires whispered on cold pavement. The smell of cold air lingered, thinner and sharper than the heated air of the room, as if that one small opening and closing of the slider had left winter inside the house. Time turned viscous. It didn't move forward so much as pool around me. I counted breaths. I made myself swallow. I pressed my fingertips to the floor just to feel something that wasn't fear. Darkness held. Somewhere between the dozens and the hundreds of heartbeats later, the room began to lighten in that slow gray way that means morning isn't here yet, but it's thinking about it. Morning light didn't make anything better. It made the room look like a room again, and that felt wrong. The world shouldn't look normal after a night that didn't feel like any night I'd ever lived. My phone told me it was after 10. I didn't know how I'd spent the hours between. Maybe I dozed with my eyes open. Maybe my brain had been taking tiny sips of sleep and waking me up before I could swallow. I typed a message that felt like throwing a rope into a space I couldn't see. Grew up? No typing bubbles. No reply. I tried them one by one, the way you try doors even when you know they're locked. Kaylee, grew up? Maddie, grew up? Xana, grew up? Nothing. The quiet wasn't the same as the night's quiet. The night had been a sealed jar. This was a wide, bare field without shelter. The dread that had been thin and sharp now got heavy. It settled on my sternum and made my breath push up against it. I stood up and took one step away from the door, and my body said, no. It didn't say it in words. It said it by making my knees feel like they weren't attached right. I leaned my forehead against the door and let the coolness there pull some heat out of my skin. I don't remember deciding to call. I remember the phone in someone's hand, maybe not mine at first, and voices that didn't line up with thoughts. A sentence that felt like it belonged to someone else but left my mouth. Something happened in our house. Time broke into fragments, small, hard pieces that didn't fit together cleanly. Breathing, crying, the operator's voice trying to thread a structure through a conversation that was all loose ends. Someone asking for our address. Someone asking for a phone number. Words came out of me like they were being shaken loose. She's not answering. She's not answering. We saw someone last night. Unconscious. I don't know how long the call lasted. I know how sirens sound when they're far and then near and then outside. I know the color of flashing lights through a window, even in daylight. I know the way boots on old stairs make a house speak a different language. Officers moved through rooms that had always been ours. Their voices were low, like the air itself was a person they were trying not to startle. They were gone a few minutes, and they were gone a lifetime. When they came back down, something in their faces had changed. And that was the moment my body understood what my mind had refused to let in. I didn't need anyone to say the words. The words were already here. They had been here since the hallway. The sound of a dog barking once. A voice saying, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." The slider closing with a soft click. The shape that passed me without looking. I had survived a thing that had taken the people I loved from the same air I was breathing. There isn't a sound for what that knowledge makes inside a person. It isn't a sob. It isn't a scream. It's quieter and heavier, and it doesn't stop when the room gets quiet again. It stays. It sits beside you like a fact. Sometimes in the months after, I would hear a perfectly ordinary noise and feel my body go still before my brain knew why. A heating duct expanding, a door settling in its frame, the soft, rubbery sound of a slider closing. I would remember the angle of a shoulder passing a doorway, and the way light can erase a face and leave only eyebrows and the idea of eyes. I would see text bubbles in the dark, and my hand shaking over letters, and Bethany's last reply hanging on the screen like a command a person gives you from a world that doesn't exist yet. Run. I didn't run. I locked the door. I lived. There are nights when I still hear Kaylee's voice, a line coming through the house as clearly as if I were pressed to the wood again. There's someone here. There are mornings when I can feel the exact moment the house changed back into a house, and how wrong that felt. The heater hums, the fridge ticks. The old bones of the place settle like always, and under all of it, a quiet I will never not hear. The quiet after the figure in black walked past my door and into the cold, and everything, forever, became the sound that didn't belong. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Check out my playlists for more true crime, mysteries, and cases that blur the line between reality and the unexplained. And remember, sometimes the shadows are watching you.